people, it's YouTube o'clock and it's time for a new video. Let's start. Okay, so I have a Blender opened and with the scene that we recently finished. So this is a chain that we were making in a previous video for a flail versus rubber ducks tutorial, and basically we will be finishing this flail today, which is a medieval weapon with chain and a spiked sphere that you can smash enemies, but in this tutorial we will be not smashing enemies but rubber ducks, because it is fun and why not. So yeah, okay, let's maybe start with adding a spiked sphere. So to do that I will press Shift A and use mesh icosphere and select this, and I will zoom in like that. And as you can see, this icosphere have those triangles, so it's composed from triangles. And what we can do now, we can customize it a bit. Let's say we can lower the subdivisions level to just 1, and what it will achieve, it will allow us to have less bigger spikes, because we want to achieve that effect. But actually you can then later swap the sphere to be like more round and not that blocky, so it's depending on how you like it. So but I will do like that, and maybe press 3 on the numeric keyboard to see a side view. If you don't have a numeric keyboard, remember you can use those widgets located here. But I recommend to use numeric keyboard if you can have it or afford to buy, for Blender at least. It's really helpful. So what I did now is just some scaling and moving this sphere to be like pretty much on the middle of this last chain link, and I press Z to toggle to wireframe mode so you can see it better. We can go back to solid, and we can also use this Alt Z option X-ray view that we used in previous tutorial, so it's like more not fully opaque. Okay, and now what we will do is adding a single spike. So Shift A again, and this time we will use cone. So add cone, and let's zoom in here, like that. And as you can see, this cone has quite a lot of subdivisions for our purposes, so we will also lower it. Because remember, for simulation you want to have as low polygons as possible, and in general for modeling, you want to have low number of polygons on the early stages, and you can then either just make it more dense by poly, or most likely by using modifier like Subdivision modifier or Bevel modifier. So okay, so we have this cone and we have the sphere. So you can see here in the outliner there is icosphere, and the cone is located here also. So I can select the cone and go to Object Properties panel, and now I will go to Relations, and set parent. We can type here or just use icosphere, or we can also use this picker, so it's really handy. And okay, as you can see, the cone has moved a bit because it's basically moved to the location of the sphere. It is because of the parenting, and it also scaled because I have scaled it before. Like, I scaled the sphere, so now it's like the same for the spike, because this is how the parenting relation works. It's basically like copying the location, rotation, and scale. Okay, so that's okay, do not worry about that for now, and we will go to select this icosphere now and go to instancing, and just scroll it a bit, and I will select faces. And as you can see now, maybe I will press Alt Z, we have something like this. It's a bit too much because of the scale. We have basically scaled this cone. So what we can do is maybe deselect it for a moment, and we will go to object and apply scale. And now, as we can see here, item rotation scale. Scale is 1 unit big, but here we can lower it to 1 like it was originally. So how I did it, I just click and drag it and press 1. So you don't have to basically change like every X, Y and Z separately. So just select and hit 1 and it's done. It's really nice addition since several versions ago in Blender. So now we can go back to this instancing and hit faces like this, and now you can see we have those spikes, and maybe we want to make them a little bit bigger. So I just press this Alt Z and select the cone, and I can just play with that, like maybe, I don't know, like that. Let's see. Yeah, okay, it looks quite nice and pretty much similar to what you seen in the demonstration video. It will be not exactly the same because the demonstration video was made like separately when I was testing stuff, how to present this in tutorial, so it will not 100% the same, but it doesn't matter. And what I'm doing now is selecting this icosphere and to go to modifiers and add modifier and make bevel. Sorry, I messed it up. We don't want to that, so I will remove it. First, we will go to object and apply and hit this make instances real, which will basically make those spikes like real objects, as you can see now in the outliner. So it was previously like dynamically just rendered, but now those are real objects, and we need that to be real objects because of simulation. So I selected the original cone, we do not need it anymore, and I will just X and delete it. And now can press Z again, go to solid, and now we can apply this bevel modifier that I tried to make previously, and it will not mess with the amount of basically duplicates now, because the duplicates are all already applied and the original cone is removed. So now I can safely make it a bit more round and maybe shade it smooth. So right click and shade smooth. I have some issue with mouse, so sometimes it not work perfectly. And what we can do now is also basically select, maybe use Option Z, or Alt Z if you are on Windows or Linux, and Option Z is for Mac, and select all that stuff. And actually, sorry, we'll not do it that way. I will deselect everything, and again select with B. Let's make sure that it is all what we wanted. Yeah, it is. And now press Shift and select the link. And the reason we do it that way is that we want to this last chain link to be the last selected object, because we will basically copy like settings from this object to the sphere and cones. So now we want to press Ctrl J to join them, and as you can see it's a single object, but it'll still have the simulation stuff. If we would select everything, but that chain link would not be the last one selected with Shift, it would basically lose those settings that we want to have. So that is important. Okay, we can deselect everything and see how it looks like. And there is one maybe not issue, but thing we can change is select and sorry for that, and shade smooth. So now the cones are also more smooth. And in for like for purposes of rendering it and texturing and so on, you could probably just make more time, like work a little bit more with those cones to make them better shape and so on. But it's not about it with this tutorial. It's about the several techniques that you can combine, and the simulation. So that would do it. And because we have these nice shading options with cavity and those valleys here and this both, it is looking quite good in the viewport. At least you can see everything pretty clearly, and we can check how it will simulate. So let's hit space. Okay, and as we can see, it is simulating, maybe not perfectly, but it's because the floor is quite low. So yeah, but what we want to do now is add one more thing, which is handle for the flail. So the handle will be attached to this first link. So let's do it. What I did is press Shift A and add a cylinder, so like that, and we can also adjust the number of polys here a bit. It's not really important here, but I don't know, maybe 24. It will be a bit lighter mesh. So as you can see, and what we can do now is to go to edit mode and rotate it by X, so that way I will not need to apply rotation and it will be good, and we can maybe scale it like, I don't know, 3 times, or maybe escape and scale SY4. Okay, that is better. It could be like that, and what we can do now is to maybe make some interesting pattern here, like so what I'm doing now is pressing Ctrl R, and if you hover over those polys, you can see the cut that is like projected. It's not real yet, it's just like a preview. And if you scroll with mouse wheel, you can make more cuts. So I can make something like this and press OK. Basically press left mouse click and now hit escape to not move it, to make it even. And we can even adjust the number of cuts here, but we want to have it 6, so we will make like 1, 2, 3 like indents to make the handle look more interesting. And how we do that is going to the face selection, and now I will just alt click here in like where we have the edge of the face, we want to select the loop here. So because it's another loop and we want to keep the first one, we'll shift alt and click, and the same here, shift alt and click, and it's quite fast to select that way. And what we can do now is going to face and extrude faces along normals. So that way we can make those indents like maybe like that, and it's already looking better. And what we can do now is maybe add some bevel modifier, so like that, and I will just make it not as beveled, so like that. And we want to keep it pretty much low poly, so I will not mess with number of segments, because it is not about that in this tutorial. And what we can do, we can shade smooth, sorry for my mouse, and we can offset it by y-axis, and y-axis maybe like that, and press tab to go to edit mode, select everything and scale it like this. And as you can see now, we have a nice handle and chain here, and sphere with spikes here. What we need to do now is to attach this handle to the first segment. So like that. Having this handle selected, we shift select the first handle, and again, as with sphere, we press Ctrl J, so it's merged into one object, and we should have the settings for simulation, because we selected the chain link last and the handle first. So it is basically joining the handle into the chain link and not otherwise. Okay, so we can see how it works by pressing spacebar again. So the simulation is pretty much the same because the hinge is located here in this first chain link. We can see what it will do if we lower the floor. So I press G and Z to lower it a bit, and maybe we can even rotate it a little bit, so like that. Let's zoom in, okay, and press space, and as we can see now it's like more looking more similar to what you seen in the demo. Okay, so it's good, cool. And now what we need are those rubber ducks, right? Because we would want to smash them with this flail. So I can actually control Z the rotation because we will want to have those. Have this basically flat floor, and we will go to top view, and let's maybe offset it a little bit with G and Y. I don't know, like that, something like that. We will adjust it later, maybe too much, like here. Okay, so I'm back, and I had a Blender crash because I was trying to simulate probably too many ducks. So I have lost my results. Basically, I have to redo some stuff. So if you will see some slight differences in the flail weapon handle and the spiky sphere, it is because of that. And I also am recording this next day, so you may see that my head looks a bit different because I had a haircut finally. So yeah, that's about that. Let's continue. Okay, so as you can see, we have the Blender opened when we finished before crash, and actually crash happened later, but it is what I have redo and have recorded. Okay, so we can now go to top view with 7, and we'll add a cube. So cube, shift A, cube, add cube, and I will zoom in a bit, and as you can see we have the cube. I went into edit mode, so it's edited, but as you can see those chain links and the handle makes it a bit worse to see because they basically overlaps. So what we can do, instead of moving it or something, we just can isolate it with slash on the numeric keyboard. So on the numeric keyboard we just hit slash, and if you want to bring back everything else, you press slash again. So isolate by slash and bring back by slash too, so it's a good thing. So I will do it, and now I will press Ctrl R to make a loop cut tool, and the stuff you can see when I'm hovering with mouse is the loop cut that will be made when I click. So I'm clicking it here, and because I want it to have exactly in the middle of x-axis, I will press escape now. So we have exactly in the middle, and the reason is because I will basically go back to select this face selection mode and press X to remove vertices. That way I have removed half of the cube, and I will go to Modifiers tab and add a Subdivision Surface Modifier. sorry, not subdivision, surface modifier, this one too, but okay, let's remove it for now, but I will add mirror modifier. So, and use the default x-axis and set clipping option. So in that way I can just model half of the duck, and it will basically mirror, so it's less work. And the stuff that I showed you by mistake previously was the subdivision surface modifier, and this one is actually not even one of the most used, but probably the most used modifier in pretty much all the 3D software packages. It is because it's at resolution, like it's make the mesh more dense and smooth at the same time. So as you can see, how it works is basically splitting the faces and made those faces more like smooth. So if I will adjust the levels here, viewport levels, you will see the mesh is more dense and more round, like this, and we can go on, but it's not advised to do that unless you want to render final result, and even then you just should not go too crazy with that, because you may have a lot of other models, so it will just slow down everything, and just try to use the level that you really need to have set, and not anything above. But we want to keep it pretty low poly because of the simulation, and we will not even render it, so let's just keep it quite low poly with level viewport 1. And if we exit edit mode, it is how it looks like, and we can right click to smooth it, and that's how it is looking. And because it is a yellow rubber duck, we want to make it yellow, so I will go to materials tab, add new material, but we'll actually not use it because it is for rendering, and we want to only have in this tutorial it on viewport. So I will choose some color like this, so it will be contrasting a bit with this flail, which is gray. Okay, go back to isolation mode with slash on the numeric keypad. So we can model the duck, and okay, let's maybe scale it a bit on the y-axis like this, and what we can do is to make a loop cut here like that. Yeah, so it's getting more shape. Will not be worried to make it like a cute tag, because it is not about it in this tutorial. It's not tutorial about how to make the most perfect duck, but it is just about to make it simulate and at least look kind of like that. So as you can see, I'm using these loop selection methods I showed you previously, and loop cut tool, and switching back and forth between those selection modes. So this is vertex selection mode, edge selection mode, and face selection mode. So the reason I added this loop cut here is because I want to make a tail. So maybe I'll do it like this. I will select this and press G and Y, like here. Go back to this, and now I will press E to extrude and extrude it a bit upwards, and then scale it by Z-axis. So like this. Okay, it's looking more like a tail, like the basically butt ending of the duck. And what we can do now is adding a wing. So maybe we'll do it like that. Just move slightly this edge and then select it here and extrude, something like that. Maybe scale it a bit like that. Okay, it is looking not really good, but at least it's getting shape. So we need some head, because ducks need to have a head, and we may add more loop cut, maybe like this here, something like that. And now I will select this face and extrude it. Then I will scale it to make a neck. You have to be worried to not scale it too much, because it can flip and you will have some weird issues. So just be aware of that. So like that, maybe even a bit more, and like that. Okay, and we can extrude it now like that. Okay, and extrude it again, escape, scale like that, and extrude. Okay, it's looking a little more like a duck now. What we want to have now is a peak, so we will basically cut this like this, and select this face, and maybe again like that, and scale it by Z-axis only, like that. And we can also cut it something pretty much in the middle. It does not need to be perfect, and we can zoom in and press G and Y to push it back, so we will have more like a peak. It's quite big actually, but we will not worry about this too much. Maybe I'll just make the head a little better, so like that, and maybe we'll select this and just move it a bit up. Okay, it's a bit blocky, but it will do for a simulation. And we want to make this bottom more flat like this, and maybe select this region basically and scale it up so the duck is more round here. Maybe select the tail and push it back a little bit like that. Okay, so we have our duck. It is not so pretty, but I don't want to spend too much time on that and show you too many techniques and stuff, so just it is, you know, just okay for this tutorial. And we can basically apply those modifiers because we want to have the simulation and don't worry about these modifiers. So I will just apply them, apply, and remember to save, so press Ctrl S. And if you haven't saved yet, you should, but if you haven't, uh, it it will pop up the dialog with saving. So if I will show you like this, save as, and you can see that you have this save dialog that you can type a file name and save it and choose location, and it is looking pretty much like that in Windows, Mac and Linux, because Blender have its own Windows system, so it's, you know, it's looking pretty much the same. The only difference will be the stuff you have on your drive. So okay, so I have saved it and save it again to just remember it, remember to save, to not need to repeat too much stuff, because it can be quite frustrating. And okay, we can exit the isolation mode now, and we have our duck. Okay, and we can go to top view, and I will zoom out a bit like that. Where is our floor? It is here. Okay, then having the duck selected, I will press G to move and move it a bit, and press Y to make it even on the Y axis. And as you can see, we moved it a bit, and now I will just move it down so the duck will be near the ground. So like that. I will zoom in to see it better. By the way, as you can see now, we have this perspective camera, and usually you do not want to have it in some situations like this to be able to basically manipulate stuff easier. So you can just press 5 on numeric keypad to go to the orthographic mode, it's so called. So you do not have a perspective, and it's easier to navigate and move stuff, and you can just go back to a perspective mode if you want to see how it will be like rendered and so on. So just, you know, 5, it's really really useful. And if you do not have a numeric keypad, there is a button here that is doing exactly the same. So with this orthographic mode, I can now press 3 on the numeric keypad, and it will be easier to put the duck on the right place. But as you can see, if I press 3 to go to side view, we cannot see our floor, and it is because it's just too thin, and it basically have 0 width, so Blender cannot render it properly. It can if you have it selected, because it draws the outline, but if you just select something else, it is disappearing. So what I suggest is to select this plane, and basically press tab to go to edit mode, and with the plane selected, press E to extrude and extrude it a bit, so it will be easier to see and navigate, and you can see it without having it selected. So it's pretty cool. And as you can see, we can press this X-ray mode, and you can see the duck is overlapping a bit. We do not want that because we have simulation, so try not to start any simulation with overlapping stuff, because it can basically act really weird and explode. because it is detecting the collision, so it is better to move it a bit like that. And okay, I will exit the extreme mode, and now what we can do is exit this perspective, which is basically triggering every time we go back to side mode or top view mode, and we can press Ctrl S to save the scene. So in case we'll have any crash, it will be saved, and I can deselect everything, and we can press space to trigger the simulation. Okay, so here it is pretty much the same as it was before. Okay, and here we cannot see too much because it is really close to the floor, but if we press escape, space, we should see something, possibly. Let's try, 3 on the numpad. Okay, sorry, of course, we have to basically add a simulation as we did with chain links and floor. So as we can see, the floor have this passive and convex hull, and this will be pretty much the same as with the chain links, except we will add rigid body, yes, but now we will keep this active and dynamic, but we will keep the convex hull as with the floor, because we do not need to use mesh, which is more computational expensive. So if it's not a shape like cube or sphere or something with holes like a chain link, use this convex hull. If it's something simpler, you can instead of convex hull check box, for example, but we have the cage rendered weirdly. I will maybe go back to convex hull because I do not want to worry about that now, and it's not that important. We will maybe cover this in a separate tutorial, more focused on rigid body, and I will also dig into the topic a little bit more to cover it better. Okay, so we have this simulation added to DAC. We can go into side view and press space, and the DAC is simulating. Okay, it's cool. So now we can go to top view, press Ctrl S to save, because you know you have to watch about the crashes, and we can basically make more DACs by duplicating them, which is by doing Shift D. So Shift D a bunch of times and just move and accept, and I'm trying to place them not like really evenly, but maybe not perfectly, you know, aligned vertically and horizontally, but more like randomly, so it will look nicer in the simulation. And you know, we have a bunch of DACs like this, and you can press Ctrl S to save and press space. Okay, the DACs are simulating, and we can now is basically go to the side view and press B to box select and select all DACs, and press Shift D, move it up, and press R to rotate and Z to just rotate it a bit, so when they fall it will be more interesting. And we will press Ctrl S to save, because it can possibly crash, so we have to check it out, and maybe it will be too much or something. So let's save often and press space. Okay, the ducks are falling, and you can see that those who are placed more on the top are falling more and hitting and rotating, because you know the gravity force. So that's cool, and we can escape now and press Ctrl S to save it. And if I change the camera to see the whole scene and press space, you can see that the ducks are simulating and the flail is simulating. So what we want to have now is basically this final effect, which is hitting ducks by a flail. So we have to animate it and swing it into the ducks. Okay, so I will go to the side view, press Ctrl S to save, just remember to do it often, and I will zoom it a bit like this. Okay, maybe a bit more, and we want to basically animate this. Maybe I will zoom in. This handle and the first chain links, that those are meshed together, so it's the same shape. So I want it to have animated, so make sure that you have this animated checked. In this one, here you see there is not checked, but here it is checked. It is important because we want to make it animated by using keyframes. And keyframes, if you don't know, are the key positions and key aspects on the timeline. So we have a timeline here, and when I'm scrubbing the timeline, we have some cached results from previous simulation. So it is for simulation, but it's usually mostly for keyframes. So we do not have any keyframes yet, but we will have them soon. So I will zoom out like that, and okay, and we can just make sure we are on the first one by pressing this. So we are on the first one. Press Ctrl S to save often, and now we can press I to make a keyframe, but before that we can press N to enter the properties for this object. You will not have this tab. This tab, it is for screen recording purposes, so you can see these actions, but you need to select this item, and here in the rotation you can change to quaternion, and it is because we want to have a possibility to make a rotation over 360 degrees, so it will may not work with the Euler type of rotation. So okay, let's keyframe it. So I will use location and rotation, because we want to move the handle and then like swing it by rotating it, so we need to keyframe both of these. So we have this keyframe, which is this this like diamond shape, like rotated square, and now we can move some keyframes, like let's say 30 keyframes, and then just just move it up a little bit and like that, and maybe rotate it a little bit and press I, and again location rotation. And now let's move again and move it more, rotate more, and I, location rotation. And you can see we have already 3 keyframes, and I will move it more and move it here more too, and rotate it like that, and press I, set location rotation, and move it more again, and press I, sorry, not I, G to move, and rotate it like that, and press I, location rotation. And we have to basically check how it will work, so we can press this to make sure it's in the first frame. Now it's really important to press Ctrl S to save, and we can hit space to see how it is behaving. And as you can see, I'm swinging, but it's not perfect. It may be too fast, and it's not reaching the floor with ducks. So we have to adjust it. Let's see when it is not working good. So here it's quite okay, but it's I think it's too fast. So we can Control Z to revert. So I can basically just left click to select single keyframe and move it a bit, and then click and shift click to select more, and move those also. So the second keyframe is happening later than originally set, and we want to Ctrl S to save it, and press space to simulate, so it's not that fast. And as you can see now, it's a little bit better, but still not good. And actually you can see that we have this effect that is the chain is broken because it's basically too much force, so we have to adjust that. Okay, let's see it again. So it's quite good here, but now too much force. Okay, we have to move those even more, maybe like that, and just select this and this. We have to be sure that we have mouse here. Okay, like that, and maybe I will select this also. So it's kind of a trial and error here. You may need to experiment with that a bit, and the more you will do it, you have more how to say it, you'll basically be able to predict it better. By the way, we can escape this to have more space. So as you can see, it is a bit better now, but here it's quite messy, and it's almost reaching, but it is not. So we can scrap to check the location of this. So okay, here we should probably allow it first to swing down, or maybe just rotate those. It will be probably better. So I will go to the first frame, and I will select everything here, which is basically those, just deselect the lamp if you selected it, and I can rotate it like that, and I will make sure that the handle is near the center of the axis, the Y and X and Z axis, and we select only this, and we should fix our keyframe. So location rotation, and we can see how it will affect our simulation. So as we can see, we have a slightly better movement from the start, and yeah, it's a bit better, but still not that. Okay, one more thing. Okay, so what we can do is basically go to that keyframe, let's say, and you can see if you have the yellow color here in this inspector, it is exactly on the keyframe. If I press like right arrow to move to the next frame, you can see it is green, so it's animated, but it's not in the keyframe position. So if I press the left arrow, it is a keyframe position. So having this selected, we can rotate it more and zoom in, make sure it's in a good position here to not overlap too much, and we need to override it. So press location rotation and go to the first frame, press Ctrl S to save, and we can zoom it a bit, okay, and press space to simulate. Okay, it is quite better, but still not that. So we have this. Okay, so we should probably rotate it more, because it is not having too much rotation here. So the swing is not working as we intend. So I adjust it, and then here, as you can see, if I will not adjust it, it basically will go back to the pretty much previous rotation. So I need to also adjust it, and like maybe like that. Location rotation, and let's go back to the first frame. Press Ctrl S to save it, and let's simulate it again. Okay, we are losing momentum, so now we can actually adjust it a bit. So here is quite good, and we should probably move those keyframes back a bit. So I will select this keyframe and move it earlier, so it is, it is happening earlier, and simulate it again. Okay, and now we have quite a good swing, but we have to fix those. So as you can see, it can be require quite a lot of trial and error. Maybe I'm not doing it perfectly, probably not. So you can experiment with it and maybe find out a better workflow to basically how to simulate it easier and faster and more accurately. But I'm just showing you a general process that you can start with and apply. So simulate again. Okay, you can add more rotation here, especially, yeah, and it would be good, but I just moved this handle too much here and here. Yeah, so I'm going to this location and maybe moving it like this and even like this, and press I and set location and rotation, and maybe we have this weird okay, so I will go to this frame and move it like that and rotate it more. Okay, location, rotation, and we can go to first frame, press Ctrl S to save, and let's try. Okay, and now it's swinging. I have messed it up a bit. Okay, let's try me to fix it. So we have okay, so we have this. Here is quite okay, and this is a bit messy. Maybe we can select this and select that and right click and delete, sorry, not that, clear keyframes. So I have the location but not changing the rotation. And let's go back to the first frame, let's save and simulate again how it will happen. Okay, yeah, and as you can see now we have a first semi-successful test. So when I was making a demo I was able to make it a bit better, but you know it's quite hard to make it again exactly like that. Okay, but maybe if we just go here and okay, let's go to the side view and we can go here and made it like here, and location, rotation, and go back. And you may have also have some let's save it, weird stuff with the cache. So it is also a good thing to go to these scene properties and rigid body word settings, and you have cache, and you can basically delete all bakes from time to time to just make sure that you have not any weird stuff with the cache. And we are simulating again, and I broke something. Okay, let's see why. Basically, okay, I know I messed it up a bit. So we want to add this rotation back here, because when we removed the rotation keyframes, it was removed from all keyframes. So sorry for that. Like that, and as you can see, okay, let's go here. Okay, and here. Okay, and here. Okay, and here. Sorry, Ctrl Z. We do not want to mess with scale. Okay, and let's save it and let's check. Okay, we have this swing simulation, and yeah, it's not perfect and it's breaking at the end, but it at least is hitting the DAX. So let's save again and check this. Okay, and bam. And what we can do with this break at the end is basically adjust the sub-steps per frame in these scene settings and rigid bodywork. So let's make it twice. Okay, and save and press space. It may stabilize it a bit, but it not need to. Let's try also doubling that, maybe make it 30 here. So basically it is like the sub steps per frame means that you simulate it many times between frames, so it's like detecting really slight changes in position and rotation and so on, so can avoid some weird stuff. And solver iterations is like how many times it simulate as I guess per frame. Number of constraint solver iteration. Okay, so let's save and check it. Okay, okay, and yeah, and now as you can see it is not breaking, so we can zoom in here and bam. Okay, and to make it more epic, let's say, like in the demo, let's move some DAX from here to there. So just selecting it by B and box select and move them here and press Ctrl S to select them and deselect everything, zoom in here and save again and let's try. Okay, we're waiting for a swing. The FPS is slower now because of those sub steps and so on, and as you can see the flail is hitting DAX and they just jump a little bit. And what you can experiment with a bit more is also selecting this spiked sphere at the end and go to the simulation tab and adjust the mass of it so it will have a bigger impact. Let's try with 10. I'm afraid it may break again, but let's see. Maybe it will not break. So okay, let's make sure it's on the first frame and simulate. Okay. It will also affect the swinging motion, so it may be different, but as you can see, yeah, the heat impact is way bigger and the ducks are smashed like, you know, it's better smash. Yeah, they are flying and rotating like crazy, and this is pretty much what we wanted to achieve in this tutorial. Of course, if you would want to then render it and make better models, make textures, you should think about it when modeling. So not when you have all those stuff duplicated, and the same with chain links. Yeah, you should then think about it before. but we wanted to make the simulation here and not beautiful rendering with everything, because it would take forever to make that tutorial and you to recreate it possibly. Yeah, it's just that. Okay, so I hope it was quite fun to do and you managed somehow to make something similar or better. And remember that you can go to these scene settings and play with the sub-steps per frame and solver iteration. You can play it with the weight of the spiked sphere at the end to have a bigger or smaller impact. You can play with the size and shapes of ducks and amount of it and so on. So you have many options to experiment with it and make it cool, but we have this smashing ducks effect we wanted, and yeah, that's quite nice. What you can also do for a nice preview is if you do not want to have all those grids and so on, you can basically disable floor and axis and origins, so it's more clean to see. And you can even if you spend more time and on it in some situations, you can even render the viewport by using this option. So for a single frame it is viewport render image, and for animation viewport render animation. And if you do not need like the best quality with everything, and just like you want to have to show something, or maybe make a quick preview for a client, or just for any purposes, you can use it, because it's really fast, because it's basically it's like here you just wait several seconds to render every frame you have on the timeline, like the scope. We have 250 frames, and it's really fast. If you want to render it with all those textures and materials and lights and so on, it will take a lot longer. So in some situation it is also a good thing to have such option. Okay, so I hope you have a good time, and see you next time in the next video. Bye.